Hello everybody. Hello everybody. And welcome to another video by your friend Sergio Chavez from Lighthouse Puerto Vallarta Real Estate. So today we're going to talk a little bit about immigration. Since it's such a big subject right now. How does immigration work in Mexico? Because when you buy a house in Mexico, at first, people come here as a tourist. And at first, they spend as much time as they can as a tourist. See? And then people realize, they want to stay longer than tourists. So they end up going to immigration and taking the oath to become a Mexican citizen. And then that way they can stay year round. See? So what I'm trying to explain is a little bit so that you can understand why sometimes we extradite criminals. Several days ago, there was a couple arrested in Puerto Vallarta by the Special Forces of Mexico, and they were wanted in the USA for trafficking fentanyl. And this couple, they are from USA. And so they were arrested in Puerto Vallarta, and it looks like they're going to be extradited. Okay? So the fact that they're going to be extradited tells me that they were living in Mexico already as a Mexican citizen. And so that's why if the USA wants them, they have to prove to Mexico why they want them. Because Mexico will protect you now that you're a Mexican citizen, right? And so that's the case when you're a Mexican citizen. But we get the case a lot when people are wanted and they come hide in Mexico. Everybody knows about that, right? I don't know why it was so popular to go hide in Mexico. I don't know. It's not a good idea because first of all, you're gonna stand out. You're pretty easy to find. All right. So basically what happens is immigration, if they find out that you're wanted, they're gonna go pick you up. They're gonna take you to the airport. They're gonna put you on a plane. There's gonna be FBI, DA, or marshals waiting. They'll know you're on the plane. And all they do is cancel your tourist visa. After that, you're an unwanted tourist in Mexico. See? So, a lot of times, immigration has caught the most wanted criminals in Mexico, but you never hear about it because they were not extradited. They were kicked out of the country as an unwanted tourist, and then that's why you never hear about that. But we've been deporting foreigners, forever. So just to name a couple wanted criminals that were caught in Puerto Vallarta, there was Keith Rainier, the guy that would tattoo his victims, and they had a sex cult going on. And he was caught in Puerto Vallarta by Immigration Services. Then the guy that I believe ran over like 6 people and his mother took into hiding. Everybody knows about that case. They were hiding in Puerto Vallarta, and they were caught in Puerto Vallarta too. Actually, Doug, the bounty hunter, everybody knows him. He was in jail in Puerto Vallarta. He was in jail in Puerto Vallarta for kidnapping. Him and his entire team were in jail in Puerto Vallarta for kidnapping because they came to get a pedophile that was worth several $1,000,000. And they picked him up and they took him to the airport. And then, of course, at the airport, this guy started screaming that they were kidnapping him. And then, of course, Doug, the bounty hunter, he's a nobody in Mexico. So, of course, he was arrested and his entire team were put in jail in Puerto Vallarta for kidnapping. See, what he should have done is go to immigration and let them know, we're looking for this guy. We know where he is. Immigration would have gone and picked him up. And they would have gone through the whole process, extradition or deportation, whatever it was. And he would have got the credit. But because he went to pick him up on his own, and you can't do that in Mexico. That's kidnapping. I mean, and so, my hat's off for immigration because they do a really good job keeping track of everybody. And the big question, if immigration is doing such a great job, right? Why are immigrants from Venezuela and Colombia and Argentina, why are they not staying in Mexico? Okay. Those immigrants are welcome to stay in Mexico. We allow them to stay if they want to stay. The help that we can give them might be shelter, food for a little while. But the only help that they're really, really going to get from the government pretty much is a working permit. And most of them, they don't want a working permit. They don't want to work in Mexico, and so they want handouts, to be honest. And so they all of them are walking to the border because they heard that you can get accepted and get a green card, and then you get to stay in New York in expensive hotels, and you get money for food, and you get all this, right? And that's why so many people are trying to go up there. But it's not from Mexico. It's more from south of Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, And so that's why they don't want to stay in Mexico, because we'll give them a working permit and we'll make them work. Mexico is a hard-working country. And when you go to work, you get a lot of benefits. And then one of the benefits that you get through work is that we get to buy a house through work. So, if somebody gets a working permit, a year later, they could be looking for a house. So, yeah, after working in Mexico for some time. That's how you build up points. And then when you have enough points, then that kind of tells you how big your credit is. So if the spouse is working, usually they put together both credits and buy a bigger house instead of buying two small homes. See, and then if the immigrants stayed, after working a year, they could be looking for a house or an apartment, because there are apartments also that qualify. And so, but in reality, those people, when they get rejected and they don't get accepted in the USA, they end up going back to their country. If things were as bad as they say, they would stay in Mexico. As soon as they cross the border into Mexico, they would be very happy. So the few that have stayed, we do keep good track of them, and they're very happy living in Mexico. But we do keep track of them, okay? Because when you're still a tourist, when you're still not a resident, you have to behave. Just like in the U.S., when you're a resident, you cannot commit felonies. Same here. If you're acting like a Karen and you're a turista, then immigration will cancel your visa and expel you from the country. And I've heard many cases of people that were working down here and were acting up like Karens, and immigration shows up and tears up their passport, sends them home. See, if you're not a citizen, even if you own a house, because you can own a house without being a resident. You can own a house without even having to come here. Because we could do anything through courier and scanning documents, right? So, and we do it, actually. A lot of people buy homes and they're not here for the closing, so there's different ways of working with that. But you could end up expelled from the country owning a house in Mexico. That wouldn't be very good, right? So if you're still not a citizen, you cannot participate in a manifestation, in a protest, nothing like that, okay? When there are manifestations or protests, the immigration officers, they show up and they tell everybody, if you're not a citizen, you cannot be here. Please leave, because you can get your passport taken away. And so that's a little brief line of how immigration works in Mexico. I know a lot of people had a lot of questions. If you have questions, go ahead and let us know on the comments, and I'll be sure to answer whatever doubts you may have, okay? If you want to search online for wanted criminals that were caught in Puerto Vallarta, you'll be surprised. Some of them was caught selling timeshares. Okay, so, but it's on. You can Google it, and it's on there. And I did mention before several others that were caught in Puerto Vallarta. So, if you have any questions, let us know. If you have any questions about the real estate and how it all works, let us know. We're here to help. Muchas gracias y hasta la vista.